Program are solely that of Klodowski Real Estate, not WBEV or Good Karma Brands.
And I am here to bring you your hometown real estate advisors, the Klodowskis. And a little bit of change if you're watching on Daily Dodge TV. We've swapped out Abby Klodowski and brought in Adam. We don't normally have you on the show, but glad you could make it. Glad to have you on. And, of course, the wonderful smiling face of Chris Klodowski with us this morning as well. Happy New Year, guys. Welcome to the show. You couldn't have picked a warmer day to come on, obviously.
Yeah.
Sun's out, so...
doing a lot of showings
Sun's
today.
out, but the guns are not out.
No. Well wrapped up in a jacket, hat on, the whole 9 yards.
Yes, we have showing scheduled today.
Really? Even with cold?
Even with the cold.
So I knew I was going to ask this question, knowing I was going to be talking to you today and knowing how cold it was going to be. It seems to me like we only think about furnaces when it's cold, we only think about air conditionings when it's hot. And today, and I'm sure this last weekend leading into today, everybody's been thinking about their furnace. If you're staging a home, is temperature that important to set up? Like, should you be thinking it's cold, shoot for warmer?
I feel strongly about that. And obviously a seller who has a vacant home, I understand. I mean, you don't want to keep it at 65, 68 degrees if you're going to be on the market for a month and it's vacant. However, there's something to be said on a day like today, walking into a 60-something degree house, like, oh, feel this warm home type of feeling versus, okay, it's 50 degrees in here. And I think there's something to be said for that. But obviously, say it's a vacant house and there's an open house on a Saturday.
Right.
Then we may ask the seller, hey, do you mind if we turn the heat up the night before to warm everything up so when people come to the open house, they have that warm home feeling.
Right. We like the warm fuzzies.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing vice versa then in the summer, if you're going to have a showing, the house is vacant, turn the AC on the day beforehand, just to get it to a semi-comfortable temperature.
Yes.
Another thing that kind of gets overlooked with the vacant house deal is we do this. We just, as far as gets overlooked, and what we usually do is we have a vacant listing. We'll just put new batteries in the thermostat, just because if they, if the batteries do die, the furnace may stop, and obviously that could be problematic.
Right. I know my house has one of those smart thermostats, and if there's nobody that walks past it throughout the day, and it's located in the dining room, and half the time the kids eat in the kitchen or whatever anyways, it doesn't think there's anybody home. So it'll start to kick the temperature down. Luckily, the cats have gotten smart, so they'll jump up on the chair near it, and they'll start tapping at it until it turns on. So...
Brilliant.
Yeah. Well-trained cats. Otherwise, my family goes through the dining room so rarely, as the house is kind of a racetrack, so they can just go the other way.
Yeah.
That it would be probably 50 when I got home with the way they do things. So got all those smart thermostats. Another thing I want to talk to you guys about, and I saw this recently, and I thought, how often does this come up, and how does this change the negotiations on things? I was watching a comedy special for a comedian I really love, Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy, as everybody knows him. And he was talking about how he was selling his house in L.A., and he's on tour a lot, and basically lives out of hotels most of the time anyways. And they put the house up for sale, and the first offer he got was well above asking price, but it also came with the caveat of, they love how you decorated, they want all your stuff. And I thought, is that really a thing? Does that really come up?
Not super often, but you will see a lot of like second homes or lake homes that, weekend homes per se, that people will sell furnished, because sometimes it's just, they're selling the house, they don't need to, they have another home somewhere else.
So more as a convenience to seller in that regard.
Yeah,
I have had a listing one time that we had staged, and the person was like, oh, I want to buy the furnishings too. I'm like, well, it's the stager's furniture. We could check into that, but also most of the time staging furniture, if you take a closer look at it, like, it looks great in a house, but if you take a closer look, it's been moved so many times that, that the corner of a chair is roughed up, table legs are touched up with
It's just well lived in.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I know, like, when we moved in, we were told initially, like, okay, the fridge and the stove are all included, everything, that's fine. Washer and dryer are not. Okay, cool, we had our own, no problem. But we saw listings where they went, by the way, the seller's taking the fridge, they're keeping the fridge, and they're also keeping the microwave or whatever, so you'd have to get those if you don't have them. It's like, okay, well, now that's an added expense I got to think about. So
Yeah, and you see even like in pictures sometimes if they've taken estates are common ones, or someone has flipped a house.
Right.
If it had pretty crummy appliances, like they may put in a stove and the microwave above, but not the refrigerator.
Right.
And definitely something to factor into your expense. I mean, if you're a first-time home buyer and you have saved your pennies to have your down payment and pay your homeowner's insurance, there might not be an extra $500-$600 to go out and.
Right.
I mean, I guess no, I shouldn't even say $500-$600. That's a cheap
Yeah.
refrigerator
Right.
nowadays.
I was going to say, we just saw CES where they got fridges that'll tell you what you put in the fridge and what you took out and what recipes you can make with it. And it's probably more than we need, right? I just need to keep the food cold.
It's a little creepy to me.
Yeah, especially when it starts judging. Should you really be eating that? No.
So what do you think? You just swipe the barcode on the refrigerator to let it know what you're stocking?
Some of
and
them, there's a
unstocking?
Samsung one where like you like as you're putting it in, a camera sees it, you got like, oh, that's a bunch of grapes, and it's like grapes, and marks it on a little list, and then you can be like, hey, refrigerator, how are we on milk or whatever, and it's like, oh, you've got half a gallon left, and it'll show you a picture on the front of it, which part of me is like, are we saving energy by having the picture show up on the front when I could just open the fridge and go, half a gallon, okay.
All right.
The extra $5,000.
And what if you
Yeah.
actually have like the
fridge costs.
cardboard container?
Right?
Like there are a lot of the organic milk comes in a cardboard container, so
Right.
it's not the plastic. Like, how does it know?
Or like your almond milk. I mean, now it's got to tell me how much is left.
That's not
or-
clear.
yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, not that I have a lot of almond milk in my household. We're true dairy people in our household. So, yeah, I mean, appliances are kind of interesting to think about. But that kind of proves that there's a lot of little nuanced things that people may not think about when it comes to the buying experience. I know for us, we were initially blindsided by things like earnest money. We had no idea what that was. We weren't planning or prepared for it.
Same. When I bought my first house, exactly the same thing. I was like, what? Like,
And I mean,
are they
we had
going
the
to cash
pre-approval.
this check? I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly us. We got our pre-approval. We were set. We thought, well, this is all we need. We walk in and go, look, we're pre-approved. And then it was, okay, well, now we're going to need this money to show that you're serious about buying it. Well, I put an offer in. Isn't that serious enough? And turns out that's normal. It's an everyday occurrence. And
And then the cost of a home inspection. If you have a home
Right.
inspection, yes, that is definitely something we. Part of why we're passionate about having a buyer consultation, especially with a first-time home buyer, but really any home buyer, to just have you prepped for that. Because between your earnest money, depending upon the price point of your house, and your inspection, I mean, you could be $1,500 to $2,000 in at a minimum, just 10 days into the contract, let alone moving into the house.
Yeah, rural homes are another thing to think about. I mean, aside from your home inspection, now you have well, septic, and water testing. Those are inspections, and in not all cases, but a lot of cases, the septic tank needs to be pumped. There's another added cost for that. So, I mean, there's, without knowing, if you don't know, that's where it's good to meet with somebody and chat about, have a buyer consultation, because there's some other things that, upfront money that you're going to need.
right. I mean, I think even as a multi-time home buyer, there's probably stuff that's going to come up that is unusual potentially.
Or you don't remember. I
Right.
mean, like, you're excited or anxious, and yeah, you don't remember, like, oh, we put earnest money down the last time we bought a house? Oh, yeah.
Are you sure? I guess maybe.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Let's take a moment to remind everybody how they can find you guys. I know we kind of skipped right into the conversation, but where can we find you online? What numbers do we call? Where are the socials we can get you guys at? How do we find Klodowski?
We have KlodowskiRealEstate.com, a website, KLODOWSKI, Klodowski, KlodowskiRealEstate.com. I will say we've shopped around and tried to find a way to not have you have to register your name when you go to our website to start looking around. We cannot find that. So you do have to enter your information if you want to start looking through houses. We do not contact you. You get an initial automatic email when you go on the website to say, like, hey, reach out. But then you can shop. We are connected with the MLS, the multiple listing service, where all the statewide listings are in. You can peruse all the houses you want to. If there's something, if you are a genuine buyer or seller, not necessarily like just liking to look at houses like I like to do, even before I was in real estate, you can click on a link to send us a message. Hey, I want to see this house, or hey, I'd like to know what my house is worth. Facebook, we have Klodowski Real Estate on there. We have Instagram.
And we're working on a YouTube page. We've kind of integrated some video stuff, listings and just general video stuff. There's obviously a lot of various things that we can do video of. So we've kind of been working on integrating a YouTube page. Our phone number, 920-219-9212, and that is the office line. Depends on the week, but you will get
They
one.
know. We joke about this
Oh, yeah.
all the time.
I was saying, who's got the phone this
Well,
week?
It's always
Well,
Abby, but it happens to be Abby this
Abby,
week.
okay. Normally, Abby never has it.
Right,
It's
right.
usually you or Abby. Usually
It
you.
works out good that way.
Yeah. Perfect. So if you want to talk to Abby and see how she's doing, call that number, 219-9212.
Before Saturday.
Yeah, before Saturday. So awesome. So we know how to get a hold of you guys. I have another question that comes up because you mentioned that the MLS information's right there on your website, which is great. But I remember seeing something when we were shopping for our own house that kind of threw me for a loop because one of the websites I went to, and I don't remember exactly which one, but it said like, oh, we get the MLS data first. And I thought, isn't it just updated?
Yeah,
Can you
I
really
don't
get
know.
it
I don't
first?
know that there's a first.
Right.
Some sites will refresh sooner than others. Like, I know on our site, it's like every 30 minutes that it's updating itself. And it acknowledges when it last updated on each listing.
Right.
But it's plus or minus a few minutes for each site. They're all pulling data in real time all the time. So I don't think your Zillow or your Realtor.com or your Redfin is going to pull information any faster than our website or anybody else's for that matter. So I don't.
They're all linked to the MLS.
They're all doing
way.
the same thing in real time. So it's what's plus or minus a few minutes at best.
Now, when you're looking at the information that's being provided by the MLS information, is it like what information are you actually getting from that as somebody who's going into it and looking at it? Are you just seeing like bedrooms, bathrooms, number of square feet, and price, or
Should be all that.
can you
Should
see
be all of the
status?
photos. So it depends on the site you go to if you see the actual status, meaning is it available still? Does it have an accepted offer, or does it have an offer where the buyer has to sell their house? Some of the sites do keep it up to date, and then some don't. Obviously, the point of like the Zillow, the Realtor.com, the Homes.com, the way that they make money is to have agents pay them so that when someone is on their site and clicks on a link to say, hey, contact agent, it gets fed to one of the agents that is paying the money to do that. I mean, that's,
right?
sorry, where's going with that? So they don't always show the status because it connects you with an agent where they're getting some bang for their buck in the leads they're paying for.
Right. So even if a really attractive home has already kind of gone into contract or gone off the market, maybe it behooves them to keep showing it to the.
So I had a showing scheduled for a new yesterday condo listing on Fox Lake for today. It's already going to be under contract. They got an offer right away yesterday. But they're open to potentially looking at a secondary offer, like where you can write an offer to be in second place if something falls through with the first offer.
Right.
A lot of times, though, once sellers go under contract, once they have an accepted offer with a buyer, they don't want to keep showing their house.
That makes sense. People walking through your space and stuff.
And having
especially-
to vacuum real quick before they came through, or move out the dog or the
Right.
kids.
Yeah, last minute cleaning, the things my kids are really, really good at. We'll talk about that. Speaking of what's available and out there right now, what is out there right now? What do you got? What's going on? What do you got seen?
So go over the big stats.
So in general, these are not just Klodowski Real Estate's listings. In general, in all of Dodge County, as of this morning, there's 85 active single-family homes. In the Beaver Dam School District, there were 20 active single-family homes, and that is a very big range. There's some new construction. There's a couple condos, some rural stuff, some in Beaver Dam stuff. So it's a pretty big spread on what's available. Like I said, the way I like to pull that is with the Beaver Dam School District, because I do have shoppers that are school district specific.
Makes sense.
So, like I said, 85 in Dodge County as a whole, and then 20 currently in the Beaver Dam School District, single-family homes as of this morning. So,
And for listings, we have some vacant land, some lots, anything from a waterfront lot on Zimmerman Drive to Hidden Valley Drive, Sunrise. We have one lot left. When you go down Highway 33 across from the Beaver Dam Country Club, one lot left in that subdivision before they potentially develop some more.
Nice.
One, Briar Road in the town of Elba, is that a Columbus address? At
It's
1.9
Columbus, yep.
buildable. To 12 acres on Highway 151, 11 acres on Hillcrest Road, just outside of Juneau in the town of Oak Grove. We have community care that is moving to the school
Yep.
at the end of the school year. 130 East Maple Avenue used to be the beautiful painted church. Now it's a little more neutral, but that's on the market. 3-bed, 2-bath at 612 Wayland Street. A 3-bed, 2-car garage, 1.5 bath at 325 West 3rd Street, listed at $235. A 4-bed with an office, 2-car garage, recently renovated roof, mechanicals, things of that nature, with 2,370 square feet at 102 Hamilton, listed at $315. And then a property at 510 North Spring Street, currently being used as a duplex. To take it back to single family would involve removing a closet and the door opening to take you into the other section. That is a 3-bedroom, 3 full bath, 2-car garage, front porch, decks on the back of both levels with 2,437 square feet, listed at $325,000. And then a semi-unique condo situation at W10723 Blackhawk Trail in Fox Lake, deeded access to the lake. But there are 7 additional condo parcels that come with this one sale. So a bit unique, and that's at $350.
Okay.
But I think important to note, you don't always have to contact the listing agent to look at a property. So if we have something listed and you're working with another agent, you contact your agent to come and look at the property, and vice versa. I mean, if the property is listed by someone else and you want your own agent, your own representation, you can contact another realtor to show you that property. You don't necessarily have to work with a listing agent.
And I guess that also kind of keys into why it's important to, if you're going to be buying a home, you're looking into it, do your research. Know what the realtors are like in the area. Know what realtors are in your area and service your area, so that, you can talk to the local people, the local advisors, so to speak.
I want to brag a little since Adam's not generally here. He just got a review, was it yesterday or Sunday? And I'd like to share it. He had a sale here in the town of Beaver Dam. We used Adam to sell our home in Beaver Dam during the slower season, November, December. The house went on the market November 14th, and we had an accepted offer on December 10th. Adam did a very thorough market analysis and provided excellent insight into pricing recommendations. He brought in a professional staging service to consult with us on preparing the house for showing. Photos included aerial views. We had a well-thought-out marketing plan. He was personable and very professional, very responsive, and great follow-up. We simply could not have been more pleased with our decision to select Adam Klodowski to represent us in selling our home, and that was on Concord Parkway. Just there
you go.
Super, I don't know if you could have asked someone to write a review for you and give them pointers that you could have gotten that out of. That
right.
was
They hit all the bases across the board.
Really,
right.
It was wonderful.
Can you review reviews? That was a great review. Yeah.
It sure was.
But it does really hit on a lot of things that are kind of important. When you guys come in, you're not just saying, well, you want to sell your house? Cool. How much do you think it's worth? Awesome. I'll see what people want to pay. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more that goes into it. And that's good because, I might undervalue or overvalue what I have in front of me. And
Sure.
You guys know what's going on in the market. You're out there. You're doing this day in, day out. Just like I wouldn't expect you guys to come in here and know how to, run video here at the radio station like I do.
God bless.
I would never even try to imagine that I could ever go out there and sell real estate without having the knowledge and the training that you guys have.
And part of it is what the seller wants. I mean, yes, we can bring in the staging consultation. We always do professional photography no matter what the property is. But if the seller's like, okay, I know this is kind of a dump, I just want to get it off my hands, great. Obviously, we're not going to do a staging consultation on that. I mean,
Right.
It's whatever is a fit for the seller. If they're just like, no, I don't want you to do a staging consultation. I want my furniture to stay right where it is. I want to leave my family photos on the wall. Great.
Right.
Well, we're happy to work with you and meet you wherever you want to be met.
And despite, obviously that most people want the most money for their house,
Right.
generally, but not always. People sometimes are looking for different terms. Like, somebody's moving, they just want to, they want an X amount of dollars and they want to get this gone in 30 days, or what's the fastest closing, or what's going to be some people are just looking to not have a headache, just because sometimes, things can get complicated. There's certain terms, maybe a home sale contingency or all the inspections, which, like I said, it happens. But sometimes people are looking to, looking to move some stuff fast, get the home sold,
Or they have a preferred closing date. Like I have some sellers that are buying a new construction home, and when they listed their house, they had preferred closing dates. So they know they can get in their new one.
Right.
And they had a couple of offers, and one was higher than the other two. However, they wanted to close in a month because they were coming to the area and needed a house. Well, that didn't work for them.
Right. And I guess, there's as many reasons to want to buy a house and move into a house as there is for people to want to sell their home. And it can be good or bad. You could be upsizing, you could be downsizing.
Life experiences, death, divorce, babies.
Divorce is what paid off for us. As much as I hate to say, like, it's a tragic thing for a relationship to fall apart, but it helped us get our house for cheaper than we expected. So
Sure.
And each situation is so unique too. I mean, and that's where we obviously there's some competition in our office, of course, between the three of us, but
never would have imagined.
We are always consulting and talking to each other about certain situations. Every situation is different. I mean, and I'm sure Christine can attest to this too, but every transaction you're learning something. Like, there's not a day you don't learn anything, and just when you think you've maybe seen it all, there's some surprise, or just like I said, there's a lot of unique situations, and every transaction is different. And I think I really enjoy that we are able to share our experiences with each other for all of us to get better at what we do. Because like I said, terms are always different, or
something wacky comes up. I mean,
there's been some very off the wall things that even we wouldn't even dream up in a month of Sundays, and it. Like I said, that's where
Did you
it's
really
pretty...
just say a month of Sundays?
He did. I love it. I'm here for it. That is awesome. We'll have to save some of those stories maybe for Klodowski After Dark.
We should do one of those.
We should.
Sometimes
We should.
Crazy, wacky, yeah.
I've threatened to do that for my history of working in Vegas for that 5 years I was there. I'm like, we can't do that for one show.
I'm here for that.
That's going to be multiple shows. You mentioned, and I want to go back to this. You mentioned there was 85 single family, I think you said, homes in the area. That feels like it's a good number. Like, that's gotten better.
And that's all of Dodge County.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that there's 20 active single family homes in the Beaver Dam School District. I mean, there was a time that just a couple of years ago, okay, there's 5 available
I remember
listings.
that.
I mean, like...
Yeah, even the last 12 or 24 months, the inventory is still low, but it's much better than it was.
Yeah, it's growing.
12 or 24 months ago. So yeah, which is good because it gives people options.
Right.
Some people are in a situation where they need a house or need a place to live, and yeah, maybe it's not always their favorite house, but now it's good there's inventory because now that people have options, and
You can compare things. Like,
Right.
I mean, 3 years ago, a property hit the market like now. Well, if you weren't in there by end of day today, sorry, like it's going to be under contract tomorrow morning. Now you can go look at, 2 to 4, maybe 5 houses in the same price point to compare, see, is this priced appropriately?
Right.
Does this kitchen work for me, or do I hate that closet? I mean, yeah.
Right. You'd be a little bit pickier. You don't have to concede
Yeah.
on things necessarily, because it is a big decision. I mean, this is a life choice you're making. For a lot of people.
It's the 80-20 rule. Like, even when
Right.
you build a house, people have you over to look at, their new home when it's done. Like, looking back, I would have. So I don't feel like it's ever 100%.
Right.
There's still something. So yeah, the 80-20 at a minimum. Like, we will happily talk you out of buying a house. If, say, we had our buyer consultation and you said, we like our house, but we are selling because I have to have a bigger kitchen. And all of a sudden, like, you're getting a little desperate. You're in this now. You're committed to buying a different house.
Right.
And there's a house that's a nice house, and it checks most of the boxes, but say the kitchen's a small galley. And I will be the first to say, like, if you want to write an offer on this house, I will write your offer. But I would like to remind you that when we first met, you said your biggest priority for selling was you wanted a big kitchen. Okay.
And I mean, that almost like minorly paints you as kind of like being the bad guy in the moment because you're bringing people down a little bit. Be like, remember you said, but also then you don't want people to look back on their purchase later and be like, I wanted a bigger kitchen. Why did they let me get this house?
Be remorseful. Yeah, like I said, if these folks had said, yes, we still want to write an offer, I would have happily done it. But yes, I just want to bounce off of them. Like, you said this was your biggest priority, and if this kitchen fits what you saw as a bigger kitchen, wonderful. But yeah, I would hate for someone to be remorseful about the house they purchased.
I definitely appreciate that. Before I ask you my follow-up question, I do want to remind everybody, as we've hit the bottom of the hour, that this is a paid program, and advice and opinions expressed on the program are solely that of Klodowski Real Estate, not necessarily WBEV and Good Karma Brands. So I know some people who, a few years back, they were doing some house shopping, and they fell into this, I almost want to call it like a a false moment of glee. They looked at a bunch of houses and they just weren't what they were expecting, and they just found themselves disappointed house after house after house. Then they found one that hit, we'll say, more than 50% of what they wanted, and they were really excited. And that excitement led to, and they're telling the story to me, led to the realtor saying, well, if you're that excited about the house, let's write an offer today. And as they were driving away and they were starting to talk back and forth, the things that they were both excited over started getting overplayed by everything that they both went, oh, but this is a concern, and this is a concern, and this is a concern. And then it was, well, let's call the realtor real quick. Never mind, don't put that offer in. And there was, I guess some kickback. And I felt like, boy, that's really got to turn you off from wanting to be a house buyer. But that's the thing that can happen, right? Like, you feel excited about a house, and then you think about it a little bit, and you're like, actually, no.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, the market's not as crazy as it was, where you literally are deciding pretty much at that 1 half-hour showing if you're going to put an offer on this house or not. But yeah, it's good to talk it out, and even sometimes, especially a first-time home buyer, or someone who's not very handy. Again, I will say myself personally, I'm not speaking for Ebony and Adam. I like to explain to them, I don't mean to be a buzzkill, but I'm going to point out some things that I see that might be an adverse fact, something that I think the home inspector may point out to you as well. Because I was the first-time home buyer going into a house and like, oh, it's so cute, and oh, look at this, and oh, I love that. And back then, I mean, like, you could wait, and I'd have my dad come on the weekend when he was off of work to take a second look at it, and he would come through and be like, oh, but this, or oh, but that, or oh, see that water line 2 feet up on the wall in the basement,
That's what I did with my dad. It's the same thing.
Things like that. Like, and I thought he was the buzzkill, but it also prevented me from buying those types of houses.
Right. It doesn't always work this way. Just but somehow some ways of the market is, but I mean, a second look never hurts, because I feel like, and I see this with a lot of buyers. They'll go in, they'll see all the things, but then they'll go back a second time. And now they're seeing other things where maybe their thoughts were here and not there at the time. And if time allows a second look, I don't think it's ever a bad idea.
Even if it's a second look the same day. I mean, say you look at a property at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and you're considering an offer. You've discussed it during the day. If time allows, and you have the opportunity to go back, say 5, 6 o'clock at night, just to take another look, because, we kind of grandiose things sometimes in our head when we're excited,
Right.
just to confirm that is where you want to be at.
And I have to imagine that you guys maybe get sometimes, and if you don't, I'd be surprised, but where people maybe have questions. For instance, our house has this really nice big bay window that faces an open field behind the house, and it's where the gun club is, so they're never going to build anything there for probably as long as we're there. I love it. There's a certain time of the day where the sun comes through that window, and I'm like, it is the brightest thing on the planet. Mm-hmm. Luckily, we don't do anything in that part of the house, for the most part, except laundry, so I'm like, it doesn't really bother me. But if that had been like in a living room or a dining room, I would have been really annoyed by that. But I probably could have asked, like, hey, can you ask the homeowner, like, does the sun come through that window in the evening or the afternoon or whatever? Or, hey, that business across the street, I see a lot of trucks over there. Does it get noisy sometimes, or whatever the case may be? Or some people, like in our case, might have been really annoyed by the gun club across the street. Luckily, I don't hear it, so it doesn't bother me. Mm-hmm. But, you guys probably get a lot of those kind of questions.
With the sun through the window, I'd be all about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love having that coming in during the day.
Just going to sit on the windowsill with a book like a cat and just be
in my head, I do that, but
right.
no, I don't actually sit down and do that.
I guess then my follow-up question, I want to tie back into, you're talking about the houses that were in the school district and how the school district can be an important thing for people to care about. What kind of information are you guys able to find or look up for people? Like, if I come in and I say, hey, I kind of like this house, but what school district is it in? Do you know if it's serviced by high-speed internet? Do you know if it's on city water, well water? Do you know who the utility providers are? Are you guys able to get that information and find that and share that?
Yes. So most of that is required in a listing, like school district stuff. In some aspects, the well and septic stuff, Christine had a listing that's technically, if you would drive by it, you'd think it's in the city. It was technically it's in the town of Beaver Dam, so it's got a well and septic, but the city has expanded out in that area, so everything surrounding it is city. but it's in the town of Beaver Dam. Well, and
Gotcha.
septic, where generally if you would drive by, you'd think, oh, it's city tied into the city sewer water. But in our listings, that we do acknowledge, if it's
And not just
municipal.
our
or-
listings, like the MLS requires
requires
you
it.
put in if
Right.
it's city water, city sewer, municipal.
School districts, same deal. It's required. As far as the utilities go, though, it's not required, and some are a lot easier to access than others. Like Alliant Energy, you can look it up online. So anybody that Alliant services for gas or electric, you could type in a property address, and it gives you a 12-month spread on. It gives you a ballpark number on what the last
average
12 months
usage.
of
Average
utility
usage.
costs has been.
Right.
And it splits it up by gas and electric. Whereas, I guess for instance, Adams Columbia, you have to call them. They don't have it. They're obviously not as big as Alliant, so you have to call them. But they're usually always good to work with as far as finding out utilities, and that's something to think about. One thing I guess that I see gets overlooked is that, there was a house I had a buyer on recently. It was in the city of Beaver Dam, and there was no gas to the house. All the utilities were electric, and the electric bill was very high in winter.
And so no gas run to the house at all?
No gas.
Oh, okay.
So electric water heaters, all that good stuff.
Right.
And that's just something to think about. It's part of one of the costs of the home, and obviously most things are getting updated to natural gas and electric, but there's still fuel oil stuff out there, and
Right.
And regarding schools, we cannot make recommendations on schools or provide information like saying, oh, that's a great school or that's not a great school. We can give folks like the website for the school district,
Right.
but we are not allowed to ethically touch on making recommendations on schools. Just facts. Like these are
Right.
the schools that are here. These are the names if you want to do your research.
There you go. So if somebody does ask you, you're like, well, hey, here's where you can go find it yourself.
Yeah.
That-
Same with it, just like in a offer to purchase, the sex offender website and phone number is listed on there.
Right.
So they can look that information up in their neighborhood. Or one thing to keep in mind is like, I know the first time I looked up a neighborhood I lived in, I was like, oh! But
Right. Knee-jerk reaction.
really, it's common. It's
Right.
common.
Yeah, and that's a whole can of worms we can
Yeah.
go into at another time. I want to jump back to something else. This is going to probably fall into one of those stupid questions, but I've heard this asked, and I know we kind of had the conversation with my wife when we were buying, is we went, okay, how do they define certain spaces in the home? Like we'd see something that says like, oh, it's got 2.5 baths. And we're like, okay, cool. What does that mean? And we're like, well, does that mean it has like 2 full bathrooms and a half bath? And then we found one home where they actually had like 3 half baths, which was weird. And it was listed, and then it had a full bathroom, so it was listed as a 2.5 bath. And I'm like, are we just doing math?
No.
Like,
It
how does
should
that
be-
work?
Your full bath should be 3 pieces: the sink, the toilet, and a shower or tub, or a combination of the two. Sometimes people think when it's just a shower stall, it's not a full bath,
Right.
but that is a full bath.
Okay.
now that you say that, that is going to go back a little bit to what you had asked prior about pulling information, how these sites pull information from the MLS, because in the MLS, we have to input them as full baths or half baths. How they import it is another thing. So they could say there's 4 baths in this house, but not one of them is a full bath, potentially.
Right.
So the way they import their information could be maybe a touch deceiving. Because one I had, the one Christine mentioned about the review, that was in the town of Beaver Dam, and that one had 2 full baths and 2 half baths. So we imported it as 2 and 2, but some of these sites will pull it as like it'll pull it as 2.5 or 3.5, whereas that could be deceiving.
Right.
And it's like we have a South Central Wisconsin MLS that up here through Waupun, Madison, Columbia County we're in. Then there's the Milwaukee Metro, which kind of takes you over to like Horicon in the Milwaukee direction. There's a Northwest. I mean, there's a number of MLSs,
Right.
and we all have a slight variation in how we put those in based on the requirements they have. So when a third-party website pulls that information, I mean, that's where some of the
Gotcha.
question comes in, I guess, sometimes.
And I think that's where we saw it was on like a third-party site as well. And then
Yeah.
that led to like, well, what if there's only a sink? And which is weird. There was a washroom off a kitchen that was just a sink. And I was like, well, that's not a bathroom. It's just a hand washing room, right?
Or if you get like a, and this is not that uncommon, so I won't even say random, a toilet sitting in an unfinished basement, and there's a wash tub sink. Okay, you got 2 pieces there. You have a half bath.
Right.
It doesn't mean that it's
there's
not
no
right there in the middle of the basement.
Right. I'm guessing then you can't just put on one of those attached handheld sprinklers and be like, that's also a shower.
Oh, you might be surprised, Ninja.
I mean,
if the floor drains there and they just hung a curtain up. I mean, yes.
I've seen some pretty redneck
I don't know
bathrooms
that would be
before.
billed actually as a full bath, but yes, you could be showering there.
I learned this last summer from somebody from out east buying a home in town here. There was same deal. There was a toilet sitting in the middle of the basement, unfinished basement. Apparently, that's called a Pittsburgh toilet. They didn't have an explanation why, but they said that is in every house in Pittsburgh. So.
Interesting.
Well, you can bet I'm going to Google that when we leave here to find out what that means.
Yeah. You heard it here first, folks. And I think about weird things like that because there are weird stuff that's regional when it comes to how houses are set up.
Absolutely.
And even how business, we had, back in the day, we had a wireless store in New York. And to get to the bathroom, which was only accessible by employees, they had to kind of go up a weird little half stairs and into a crawl space and then through a door to get into the bathroom area. And I thought that is the weirdest build I've ever heard. But then I think about real estate stuff that I've seen where it's to get to the basement, you have to go outside and then you have to go inside a different part of the house and then you have to turn a corner and go downstairs. And it's why isn't there an indoor door? Why do you have to?
Right.
It seems weird.
Just every transaction is different. I mean, I really love this about the real estate world is going in and seeing these different buildings because, like you said, you see the houses where the basements may be on an exterior door you can't access from the inside of the home. They're all different, they're all unique, and it's cool to see where people come up with ideas or builders come up with ideas and how they do things. And I really enjoy that part of real estate just because you see a lot of maybe not always cool stuff, but unique stuff.
Right.
What pops up for me is I was here in town, and I'm guessing they wanted to get a toilet on the main floor because the bathroom was upstairs, an older 2-story house. So where you came out of the kitchen to go down the very steep basement stairs, there was a little bit of space there. I imagine where at one time someone parked their mops or their brooms, but they put a toilet in there. So you stepped out to the landing before this steep set of stairs, and the toilet was on your other side. Oh, good golly! See a lot of danger here.
I feel like we've all seen those YouTube videos or TikTok videos where it's what were they thinking? It's the door in the bathroom opens, but has a cutout to go around the toilet.
Oh, seen that? Yep.
So,
was that here in Beaver Dam? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
So someone had flipped a house and put in the nice elongated high-rise toilet, which is great.
Right.
But yes, now the door no longer was able to swing open. So yes, it was trimmed out the shape of the toilet.
There you go. Now, when it comes to luxury bathroom features, I got to ask this question because my wife thinks that they're amazing and that every home should have one. And I don't know why because it's not like she's from Europe or anything. Are bidets becoming a popular thing suddenly now? Built into toilets and stuff? I keep seeing people talking about oh, how come Americans don't have this? They're everywhere.
I see them more regularly.
I thought you were going towards heated floors there in the bathroom.
Oh.
But we do see bidets, not a lot, but in newer luxury builds, yes. But I see a fair amount of them as add-ons because you can buy them and attach them to the toilet and just plumb
Yes, I would see.
plumb it into the water line. But I see them like a retrofit kind of deal. I see them not all the time, but regularly often. Yeah.
I had some folks purchasing a new build condo.
Right.
And in part of their offer, they wanted the electrician to place an outlet behind the toilet. Obviously, it has to be a GFCI receptacle at that point. But yes, for that sole purpose, for the bidet.
I mean, there you go.
I've never tried one, but yes, I'm told once you do, you have to have it.
So we're all awaiting a life-changing experience at some point.
Right?
Talking about labeling things again, this came up as a question, and I think we talked about this once before, and I just want to get clarification again. To qualify as a bedroom, what does it have to have before it becomes just an office or a den or something else?
For MLS, the multiple listing standards, to be a bedroom, you need to have a door, you need to have a closet, and you need to have not just a window, but a window that you could get out of in case of a fire.
Gotcha.
I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but there's an X amount of square footage this window has to be for somebody to get in and out of in case.
On the flip side of that, though, you see some remodels where they have the really skinny, long windows that
Right.
there's no way I'm getting up there, let alone getting myself out that window.
You and me both, sister. You and me both. Yeah. But okay, so then other than that, it would be a den or an office, or at that
Correct.
point, are you just giving it a name based on what they tell you they use it for?
Sometimes yes. Sometimes like I've seen where the assessor has. I mean, we go off of like the assessor square footage, year built, and if the assessor has it like say is a 4-bed, 2-bath, but one of the bedrooms doesn't have a closet, or I've seen it too, like where there's a closet right outside that bedroom door, and that's what they've used. You are required to put at least in your notes that the 4th bedroom does not have a closet in it.
Right.
So if you're building it as a 4-bedroom house, you have to make the buyer aware, as well as their agent, that there's not a closet in there.
And so I guess then if it's something like a den or an office, you guys can just choose to call it like it's a den, it's an office.
We have
Correct.
a fair. I mean, so on the MLS side, there's a couple things they call them bonus room. I see in a lot of new construction they call them flex spaces, to where they're not technically a bedroom, but there could be an office, could be a kid's playroom,
Right.
whatever. But even like the rec room, playroom, bonus room. I think we can call something a study as well. There's quite a few options where we can call them, and then that's just I guess on us where so say there's a storeroom in a basement, and then there's an actual finish room, but technically can't be a bedroom. We'd maybe call that a rec room or another living space or living room type deal. So
Bonus room.
there's quite a few options that we have on MLS to call them, and that's at that point it's some of it's up to the discretion of us if the assessor doesn't have anything on their sheet. So
The next question I have is for stuff that people might put on their property that wouldn't move from the property if they moved. The last couple of years, I had a buddy put in for his wife a built-in on the property she shed, back when those were a really big thing. And it's got a concrete pad. It's there. It's not moving. It's heated. It's air conditioned. It's yeah. It's got everything but the plumbing because she has to come in the house for that. But it stays on the property. Does that have to be listed a certain way on a listing, do you think? Or is that something where you just kind of put that in the notes, like on the property, there's an extra building currently being used as a she shed or whatever?
I would definitely include, especially if it's heated and cooled. Yeah, I would build that almost as livable square footage because you could sleep in there. We cannot use the word she shed, though, because, yeah.
Got it. Right.
it's everything's got to be fair. We can't. The word is.
Yeah.
I want to use discriminate, but gender, sex, religion, all that good stuff. So I would personally, you could put that as either living space or another, garage, because obviously garage
But if
space
it's-
is
I mean, if it doesn't have a
coveted,
door that.
Right.
External use flex space.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would put that probably early on in the photos and the listings. So
Right.
the male, the woman, whoever would find that most enjoyable, I would find that very exciting to have a little space to
Right.
escape to, or even kids actually like go play out there.
There you go. It could be a little playroom. That's awesome. Encourage them to get outside.
Yeah.
And
Or
put
out
an
of the house
Xbox
at
or
least.
something in it, and then yeah,
There you go.
that is exactly how it would go down.
Their rooms wouldn't even be dirty then.
Right. We know if my kids are listening, we're talking about you. They're not listening. They're home today, but they're not listening, I'm sure. The next question I want to ask you guys about, and I thought about this a lot recently because my wife has been on a baking kick. And so kitchens have been on my mind, and I know that when I talk to people, when they talk about what's like the single most like thing you can do to really bring up the value of a home on the interior, kitchen seems to be one of the number one things to talk about. Kitchens, then like bathrooms.
Yes, yep, because those are your most expensive rooms to,
Right.
renovate.
Is there something that you guys would recommend when it comes to looking at kitchens if people are thinking like, I'm thinking I might sell in the next year or two, but my kitchen needs an update. Is there stuff that you guys know people are asking for? Like, does it have to be all natural, marble cabinets, or do people want built-in and butcher block, for whatever?
I feel like most people find butcher block tops, this isn't a very professional, but gross. Because
Right.
people have been chopping things up on them,
Right.
like the cleanliness of them, and even cleaning them. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, when there is a cutting board countertop, or even a pull-out one, they're like, ooh, that's gross.
I remember my grandmother had a pull-out one in
Yep.
hers that was for just cutting bread on.
Yep, bread, yep.
And I thought that was the coolest thing as a kid. And then as I got older, I'm like, you're just pushing it back in with crumbs and stuff on it sometimes. Like,
I have one of those built into my cabinets in my house.
like I love the old features sometimes you find in old homes.
Where you have
that
the
one would
metal
throw me.
bread drawer as well.
Right.
Yep.
Islands are a huge thing in the last, even the last handful of years.
Or even breakfast bar, like something where you can have some additional seating there, like to plop down.
One thing that, and I'm super fond of this, but walk-in pantries.
Ooh,
So
I'd
what
love one of those.
I hear and I see, and this is a personal thing for me too, because I have the same trouble as, with these appliances now, your air fryer, your crock pots, your Instapot, your coffee maker, all that stuff. Your counter space can be limited if you have those in your counter. So what I see a lot, especially in newer construction, especially in custom builds, people are doing walk-in pantries where all the food is still stored in there, like a normal pantry, but they have all their appliances and they just stay on the counter because you don't see it. It's a whole. Usually it's a separate room. It's got a door on it, so you can close the door and nobody's the wiser. So your kitchen always looks nice and clean, and all your appliances can stay out there, so you don't have to dig them out every time you want to use them.
And then nobody's judging you for how many boxes of macaroni and cheese you got.
100%.
And
Yes.
unless you're super organized, you're not opening up a few cupboards looking for where is the tomato sauce.
Right.
Like you just walk into your pantry. I don't have one of these. I would love to have one of these. But yeah, you walk into your pantry and like, oh, there it is.
I will say the one thing in our kitchen that I absolutely love, and I've told the wife I want it in every kitchen going forward, right next to the sink, there was a little bit of a narrow space that I guess they couldn't put anything else in. So there's a double layered spice rack, like drawer that pulls out. And it's just loaded. And I'm like, we have a lot of spices we love to cook, and we buy them in bulk, so it fits the big containers perfectly. And if you didn't know it was there, you'd have no clue. It's kind of a little hideaway for it. So
There's some very
like
cool
that.
things that are builders are utilizing, and like I see a lot of things, pots and pan storage, cutting board storage. One thing that I've seen recently a little more is people are taking their dishwashers and moving them up 2 feet. So the bottom of the dishwasher is at counter height, so you are no longer bending over to get in your dishwasher. The same with ovens. I mean, it's the built-in ones, I should say.
Right.
They're up counter height, so you're no longer bending over to get at these utilities. But most of the time, you see these, new custom builds. But there's a lot of cool innovation that's happening. Like kitchens are so awesome now, and obviously the price comes with that. But the kitchens are becoming super awesome. They're utilizing good storage, and I just had a buyer. I sold their house. Her and her husband bought a lot and built a house, and it's a custom home, and it is incredible. One of those, I'm kind of picturing that as I'm talking, is they did all the cool things in their kitchen, good storage, and like you said, they actually have two of those. The built-in spice racks that the drawer is like 6 or 8 inches wide, and it's super cool. You wouldn't even know it's there.
Very convenient. I do like that. Well, unfortunately, we ran out of time for the day. Otherwise, I'd have so many more questions for you, so I'll have to save them for next time. I do want to remind people, 920-219-9212 is the number. Currently, Abby has the phone. Feel free to call her up. Tell her Ninja says hi. I'm sure she's listening anyways. But yeah, feel free to give them a call. Obviously, Klodowski Real Estate, you guys are the local real estate advisors here for the area, and you'd love to get those calls.
Absolutely, anytime. Even if it's just questions, feel free to call us.
There you go. And of course, Klodowski Real Estate online. So KlodowskiRealEstate.com. I promise I can talk. This has been a paid program. The advice and opinions expressed on the program are solely that of Klodowski Real Estate, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands.